Hi and welcome again to this week's Business Finance Bulletin with me, Rob Warlow from Business Loan Services. In this week's bulletin, bank lending to SMEs and also a review of the latest report from the SME Finance Monitor team. Also a review of late payment and business confidence generally. And in the business finance tip of the week, a heads up of a ratio that you can use, again calculated from your balance sheet, to help improve the performance of your business. Bulletin by taking a look at the latest figures on how much small businesses are borrowing from UK banks. The latest figures just come out from the Bank of England, which reveal that as at the end of January 2016, small businesses were borrowing £163.1 billion from the UK banks. And that's an increase of 500 million on December 2015. So we can see that the UK banks are lending out more money. And in fact, year on year compared to January 2014, the increase of the total amount of money currently outstanding was an increase of 1.4%. So you can see banks are lending more. Now that is against the backdrop of 2-3 years ago when I was reporting a contraction in the total amount outstanding of about 3 to 4%. So you can see there's been a big swing. But what about the broader picture? Well, this week also saw the release of the latest quarterly report from the SME Finance Monitor team. So this is a report carried out by an independent body where they question up to 5,000 small businesses every quarter and ask them about their experiences in raising finance and dealing with banks. The latest quarterly report is out as at Q4 2015 and as ever really makes interesting reading. Let's start off by taking a look at use of external finance. Now, external finance is where businesses have gone to banks or using invoice discounters, crowdfunders, whatever it may be. And there the team say that 37% of businesses say they now use external finance. That's exactly the same figure as it was in 2014. So no growth there. However, really interesting when you look at the breakdown of how many businesses are using external finance. Perhaps not surprisingly, larger firms are the greater user. And the report shows there that larger firms, which are defined as businesses employing between 50 and 249 employees, the report shows that 61% of them are using external finance, compared to smaller businesses, these are sole traders, where only 32% are using external finance. So as you can see, it's the larger businesses who have the appetite really to borrow money. Now, another thing that comes out of the report is actually how many businesses want to borrow. And this statistic always surprises people when I mention it, because when you listen to the media, especially during the depths of the credit crunch, when everyone is saying, oh, all businesses are starved of credit and no businesses can get money. Well, this report has consistently proved that not the case, because they look at this thing of permanent non-borrowers. These are small businesses who say, I have no intention of borrowing, never borrowed, not really interested. And as at this last quarter 2015, it showed that 47% of businesses classified themselves as permanent non-borrowers. And that's up from 2012 of 34%. So over the last couple of years, there's been an increase in the number of businesses who are saying they're not wanting to borrow. However, and the last quarter 2015 did show a slight dip where that 47% was over an 18-month period. The last quarter of 2015 showed that only 43% of businesses classified themselves as permanent non-borrowers. So a slight dip there. So perhaps more evidence of businesses dipping into the finance market in order to fund growth. There's a lot more that comes out of this SME Finance Monitor Report, and I'll be returning to it in the next bulletin, looking at success rates. How many businesses are getting that all too elusive yes? Let's move on now to late payment and a survey carried out by our old friends Market Invoice, the online invoice discounter. Now, the Market Invoice team decided to take a slightly different slant and looked at the percentage of invoices that were paid late across a number of countries. And in fact, they sampled 30,000 invoices across 80 countries. And here in the UK, the percentage of invoices paid late was 59.6%. So yes, nearly 60% of invoices were paid late. But here's the thing, compare that to the European average. The European average of invoices paid late was 40%. So you can see there's a massive difference, almost a 20% differential. And it just shows that the UK SMEs are being disadvantaged because we just don't have the cash flow to fund growth. Now, who are the culprits? Well, perhaps not surprisingly, nearly 62% of the culprits are the big blue chip companies, closely followed by the public sector. So we're seeing high street retailers and supermarkets as sectors in particular who are leading the pack. So it is something, as we know, that the government is desperately trying to tackle, including naming and shaming, and a small business commissioner being appointed to try and improve the flow of cash. What can you do? Well, as I said before, make sure your terms are clear and make sure you are very, very sharp on collecting and chasing that money that is owed to you. What are your growth plans over the next 3 months? Well, that was a question asked of 1,021 business owners by Hitachi Capital as part of their quarterly British Business Barometer Review. Now, of those businesses that took part, 47% said they expected no changes within their business at all over the next 3 months. And they are very cautious, as you can see, about growth plans. And in fact, only 39% of those businesses surveyed said they expected to increase sales over the next 3 months. And compare that to actually 43% of 6 months ago who were saying that they were expecting to grow. So you can see confidence levels are beginning to slip. So we've got this whole impact of China, the European referendum coming up, introduction of the national living wage, auto enrollment, all of this conspiring to make businesses feel a little less confident and much more cautious about their future. What about you and your market? Well, obviously, don't necessarily listen to what's going on around you. Just make sure you're really confident about your plans going forward, knowing who you're going to be selling to, identifying your target market and providing the very best service that you can. And just make sure you're not one of the 47% who intends to stay still. My business finance tip of the week is a signpost for you to a new video that I recently posted on how to use another ratio taken from your balance sheet that will help improve the financial performance of your business. It'll also give you a heads up of what a bank manager is looking for when reviewing your finance request. And that ratio is called the creditor payment ratio. And on average, it works out how many days it takes you to pay your creditors. And it can be a potential red flag for the bank when they're reviewing your financial statements. If you want to watch that video and learn how to use and calculate that ratio, I'll use the link for the video here, just above me, and also in the description box below, you'll find a link. And if you're listening on the podcast version, just go along to my YouTube channel, just search for Rob Warlow on YouTube and then look for the credit payment ratio video. It's a really useful ratio and one very worth calculating. Well, that's it for this week, and as ever, I hope you enjoyed the bulletin. If you did, please give it a like and a share. It all helps. And don't forget, if you're watching the video version, we've also got the podcast version so you can listen on the move. All you have to do is go along to our SoundCloud, iTunes and Stitcher channel and just go and search there for Business Finance Bulletin and you'll find this and past episodes. If you're listening on the podcast version, again, pop along to our YouTube channel, search for Rob Warlow, and there you'll find this episode and all the past ones. So that's it for this week. Thanks very much for being with me. Look forward to being with you again next time. Bye bye now.